Let's head up to Scotland to SNP spokesperson Tommy Sheppard. Tommy Sheppard.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, can I associate myself with the remarks of the Shadow Leader and the Leader regarding Holocaust Memorial Day? Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask for a debate on the role of government ministers and the Prime Minister in particular in setting an example by following the rules which they make for others during the lockdown. Now, I know, of course, that every time the Prime Minister opens his mouth on the subject, his ill-informed views drive support for Scottish independence upwards. And I know also that his stage-managed visits to selected Scottish supporters make the SNP's case for it. So in normal circumstances, he would be most welcome. But these are not normal circumstances. We are telling millions of people not to leave their homes and only to make essential journeys. The Prime Minister is more than capable of patronising us from his office in Whitehall. So what exactly is so essential about his 1,000-mile round trip to Livingston today? This gallivanting is a blatant piece of electioneering, while most are focused on fighting COVID. But the real tragedy is that his actions will undermine the public health message which we all need to succeed. Let me turn now to the government plans to cut universal credit by 20% in April. This would be the most cruel and immoral decision of this administration, heaping pain and misery on the very poorest in our communities who have already borne the consequences of COVID to a greater extent than most. It is extremely unpopular, even in the Tory party. But rather than have a proper debate on the matter, the government is trying to buy time by delaying until the budget at the start of March. This may suit the government, but to leave this threat hanging over the heads of so many families is unforgivable. The House should debate this measure now, not in March. Mr. Speaker, in December, the government laid changes to the immigration rules, which fundamentally altered the nature of asylum, leaving many vulnerable people in limbo. Members across this House have supported an SNP motion to oppose these measures. Can I ask, when will we get the chance to debate them? And finally, may I ask again when we will get a third-party opposition day, which is long overdue?
Leader of the House.
Mr. Speaker, as always, I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman for his questions. We have facilitated a debate coming up shortly in response to a prayer from the SNP on a statutory instrument. So we are doing our best to facilitate all opposition parties, but I bear in mind his request for an opposition day debate, that these are important and are set out in standing orders. As regards to universal credit, the honourable gentleman is simply getting the wrong end of the stick or not paying attention. It was debated in this House not very long ago on an opposition day debate, as is the normal way of things being debated in this House, why there are opposition debates, so that people can discuss things the opposition wants to talk about. And the government's made it clear that the £20 that was introduced by this government to help the least well-off in society during the pandemic is under review, and that will be announced in the budget in the perfectly normal and proper way. And I think it really is sort of cheap point scoring that doesn't score any points complaining about it at this stage, when the decision will be announced in due course. As regards the Prime Minister's visit to Scotland, well, Mr. Speaker, I used to think that Moan was a fictional character, but it turns out it's actually the First Minister of Scotland, that all Mrs. Sturgeon can ever do is moan a lot. She moans when distinguished royal personages visit Scotland. She moans when the Prime Minister visits Scotland, people doing their duty, doing their job. And the visit to Livingston is something we should be proud of as a nation, visiting a vaccine factory, a factory that has made enormous strides to develop, produce a vaccine that is waiting approval to help in the fight against COVID. The Prime Minister is doing his job. And moan a lot, Mr. Speaker. We'll have something to moan about in early February when Mr. Salmond gives evidence to a committee of inquiry in the Scottish Parliament and we find out all that is going on up north to the disadvantage of the Scottish people, led by a hopeless administration.